Greetings, ghouls and goblins. Welcome to Based on a Book, the ultimate podcast for magic and mischief. I'm Lindsey, a woman in total control of herself.
I'm Crystal. I'll give your kids way too much candy.
And I'm Keri, the romance reader with a taste for the dark and magical.
Grab your potions as we discuss the bewitching tale of the witches, written by Roald Dahl, and the 2020 movie adaptation directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring our girl Anne Hathaway.
Woo! Our favorite.
So let's get into a short description of the story. So, this is not a fairy tale. This is about real witches. Real witches don't ride around on broomsticks. They don't even wear black cloaks and hats. Spoiler alert, yes, they do. They are vile, cunning, detestable creatures who disguise themselves as nice, ordinary ladies. So, how can you tell when you're face to face with one? Well, if you don't know yet, you'd better find out quickly. Because there's nothing a witch loathes quite as much as children, and she'll wield all kinds of terrifying powers to get rid of them. The story is about a young English boy and his Norwegian grandmother who encounter a society of child-hating witches. The witches disguise themselves as ordinary ladies and devise a plan to turn children into mice. The boy overhears their plan and tries to stop them. So, let's go over reading formats, ratings, and many non-spoiler reviews. I'll go first. I had actually never seen or read the book. This was brand new to me. I don't even know if I heard of it before, which is kind of weird for me.
Yeah, me neither.
But for the story, I gave it 3 out of 5 mice.
Interesting.
Crystal, what about you?
I never read the story before. I did see the 1990 movie repeatedly when I was in my that 10 to 12 age range, that middle school age. And then my little sisters fell in love with it when they were younger. So I watched it again repeatedly in the late 90s and the early 2000s. It's always been a family favorite. I had no idea it was a book. So when the 2020 movie came out and I was like, oh, I recognize that. And it said right on there, Roald Dahl's The Witches. I was like, wait a minute, this was a book. So I had not read the book before, but I did read it. I read the physical copy, and I think I also give it 3 poison children.
Oh,
That's so aggressive.
And Keri?
So I did something crazy. I had never seen. This is crazy.
Uh-oh.
So I had never seen the movie, and I had never read the book before. I actually never heard of either until Crystal, I think you brought it up before, brought it to us. And I watched the movie before I read the book.
Gasp.
Gasp. Can't believe she's done this. But I ended up doing that. Honestly, the reason why I did that was because I started physically reading the Kindle book, and I was kind of struggling to get into it a little bit. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just watch the movie just to kind of get the vibe or try to get more invested in the story. So I did that, and I think that helped me a lot more. Also, I switched to the audiobook, which is narrated by Miranda Richardson, who did amazing in the narration. It also has sound effects, if anyone's interested.
Oh, awesome.
That's
so
cute.
It was really good. I actually gave it 3.5 catapulting witches out of 5.
Oh.
Because those witches were catapulted
They flew
out of their chairs. Which had me shook. Honestly, that 0.5 was probably for the narration specifically. If without the narration, probably a 3. So
That's why I was missing the 0.5. I was narrating it.
You were narrating it yourself.
And I didn't have sound effects.
Yeah.
I should learn.
Based on
I think
like my personal film and reading history, it honestly felt very unique and unpredictable
mhm.
with like the perfect balance of like lightheartedness and almost like a little bit of like nightmare fuel, in my opinion.
Well, and I tried to kind of like put myself in the shoes of a kid reading the book because this is a children's
Yeah.
book. It's meant for that like first chapter books kind of age
Yeah.
range, that like 8 to 10, range. And so I tried to like put myself in the shoes of like a third grader, a second grader, a third grader. And I feel like I probably would have liked it more because there's like stuff that you're not supposed to talk about, like
Yeah.
gross stuff. And you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, and witches and, and there's a lot of like gross and disgusting things that I feel like little boys in particular would probably really like. But because I'm an adult, it was still kind of hard to wrap my brain around, and that's probably why the 3. I think as a kid, I probably would have given it a 4, but I'm not a kid. So,
Yeah. I think
like
that's exactly what I wrote down in my review was that especially as someone who's single, does not have kids, is honestly never around any kids, hasn't really
Mhm.
been growing up. I was, like, really struggling to get into it, put myself in, like, the shoes, even, like, trying to think back of, like, when I was younger, would I have really liked this? And I'm like, I don't know." It kind of felt, like, very forgettable after I finished reading it. I wasn't very emotionally attached to the story at all. I mean,
Right.
sure, maybe kids would like this reading it, but I just felt like maybe it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. No, I think I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of goes into my review because I also tried to think of this as this is a children's book. I'm going to read this with the mentality of a child. And my immediate thought, I got to like page 11 and I was like, this is a children's book?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
and that's the other thing is, like, there's a lot of it I had to remind myself this was written in what, the early '80s,
Yeah.
I think?
1983, I think.
Yeah. And so, like, I tried to remind myself that, like, because so I was a child in the '80s, like, I was born in '81, and I remember the majority of our stories and stuff probably are not what we would consider appropriate today. Like, I wouldn't read them to my children, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of stuff in here that I think is almost inappropriate for small children. Maybe like I feel like the 10 to 12 range, okay, we're getting closer to some of these topics and some of these descriptions are appropriate kind of more for like the middle school age, but this is targeted towards younger kids.
Yeah.
And and so that kind of like reading it now, I'm kind of like, "Oh, that's not what I would see in a typical book in 2024 for children." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I kinda get it. Having said that, when in the '80s, I would have loved this book. I would have loved it. I there's plenty of stories that had topics when I was a kid that were not really appropriate, and that's why we loved them, because we knew we weren't supposed to be reading that kinda stuff.
Yeah. I think I also had, like, a completely different experience watching the movie as well. Like,
Mhm.
I enjoyed the movie a lot, and that definitely felt more memorable, but I also had a similar experience in what you're saying about I was like, "This is for, like, little kids? Like, this is scaring me.
Yeah.
I'm scared."
It's definitely creepy. I mean, Lindsay, you're our, like, queen of creep. Wouldn't you agree that it's
I was surprised. I was not expecting it to be so creepy.
Mhm.
I think I wrote down one quote. It was the first quote that made me kinda, like, take a second look at the sentence again. I was like, "Wait, did I really just read that? I This is a children's book. What is this?"
Mhm.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
She's like,
It's
"I enjoyed it." I
but
was
also I like
the
creepy
murder
stuff,
queen enjoyed
like
it. Of course she
and
did.
but I feel like this was the kind of, like, the precursor for the kids who were gonna potentially go, like, the goth route or the you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely that, like, introduction to the darker side of fairy tales, although it clearly says it's not a fairy tale.
Mhm. Yeah, and I didn't even watch what was it, the 90s version?
Yeah, the 1990 movie.
Yeah, and you both watched it, right?
It made me
1,000 times.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
It's
watched a
it's
couple
an
clips
uncomfortable
of it.
movie.
I watched a couple clips of it, and I was like, "This is even worse."
So, I don't know if you noticed though, but that was, um, a Jim Henson production.
Yeah.
So, there were I don't wanna say there were Muppets because there weren't. I mean, like, there were, but, like, the mice
Mhm.
were Muppets, kind of. They're like the least Muppety puppets of all the Muppets I've ever seen in my life. But the whole movie had that Jim Henson feel, that like somewhat creepy, somewhat other, that kind of like I would not let my 10-year-old watch that movie. It was just a little it was watching it as an adult, I was like, I like this. This is I don't know if it was a nostalgia thing or not, but I really enjoyed it. But also in my head, I was like, I can't believe I watched this when I was like 10 years old. You know what I mean? Like it's creepy.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little nightmare fuel.
Yeah, definitely.
But in fact, probably if you loved this movie as a kid, you're gonna really love Stephen King movies growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's that kind of creepy.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I was, like, watching different clips of it on, like, YouTube and stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrifying." Or I was also watching, like, the trailer,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my god, this is even worse," and I thought Anne Hathaway was terrifying.
She was okay. So can we talk about that for a minute? I'm sorry to hijack you're
Well, before we get into, like,
yeah,
any
let's
spoilery things,
okay.
let's go ahead. Spoiler warning, if you haven't watched the movie or read the book, pause us, go do that, and come back, and then you'll understand what we're talking about.
Yep.
Alright, Crystal, go.
So, although we all know that I'm a Anne Hathaway fangirl and that this is the Anne Hathaway fan club, this is probably the only movie where she is not gorgeous. She's terrifying.
She is terrifying.
I don't like that. Like, that needs to stop. Never do that again.
Yeah. That was so scary. I think at first I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. Okay." And then she goes up to the podium. I mean, we're kinda skipping ahead here, but she
Well,
goes
why don't we start with what like go back to the book because it wasn't like second chapter or whatever that they tell us the differences or how
describing
to recognize a witch.
how to recognize a witch, which is yeah.
Alright, well, we'll also give a little content warning because, I'm gonna be honest, this story might be a little disturbing for some people. But it's also got child endangerment, transformations, dark magic, mild horror elements. There's scenes of body horror, once again, creepy imagery, and, it might not be suitable for some younger or sensitive viewers, so warning.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was watching it with family, and we were just, like, kept repeating over it. We're like, "This is a kid's movie? Like, this is crazy. This is a kid's movie?"
Yeah.
Like, I would be so scared. I mean, there's obvious elements to it that makes it a kid's movie, but sometimes I was like, "This would literally give me nightmares." Like, honestly, I'm scared right now,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I'm an 29-year-old adult, and I'm scared. Like, somebody hold my hand while I go to bed.
Mhm.
Someone tuck me in and check the closet and underneath my bed right now.
Right.
Right.
I'm
Exactly.
Get your
terrified.
magic spray out and like get rid of all those ghosts
Yeah,
because yep.
yeah. So to identify a witch well, first of all, I just love the first chapter of the book where it's like, a witch could be anyone, like and it's always a woman.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's start with that because that made me mad. Like,
Well, it says, like,
that's my first flag.
a male is always like, a what is it? What was it? Like
Ghouls.
Yeah.
A ghoul is always a male, so indeed is a barghest. I don't know what that is. Both are dangerous.
Yeah.
But neither is half as dangerous as a real witch. That's directly from the book. So they're basically saying that, like, we're not sexist. It's only the witches that are female. That's just the reality of it. Other things can only be men, but they don't suck as bad as witches, the women.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, Roald Dahl, sexist much? I was not playing, and that theme is repeated throughout the book where he refers to, instead of just saying the witches, he says the females, the females over and over and over again. And it's like, dude, we get it. They're women, but they're not women. They're witches. You just don't like women. Just putting that out there because I got real mad about that.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is how it's gonna go for this book."
Page 9, I'm already pissed off.
Yeah.
Like,
So this is how it's gonna start. Okay, okay. Yes, they're always women. They're like, it could be like your neighbor, it could be, the teacher reading this story to you at this moment.
no
And
teacher would ever read this book
No,
to the
yeah,
classroom,
absolutely
by the
not.
way.
I was like, who's doing that, first of all?
Right.
And it's also that they hate children, like they want to kill children, which is like, honestly, that's so scary. That's terrifying.
Are we trying to teach our children to be afraid of women and teachers?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
That women are terrifying, women are evil, women are trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Whoa, back off. Do you have mommy issues, my friend?
Oh.
Like, I
Oh
was
no.
not pleased reading this. I was like, do not teach my child not to trust me. Like, sorry. I
Yeah.
was very mad.
And then, so like the boys, like, also the boy doesn't have a name in the book, and I was like, this is giving Rebecca all over again, and
Once
it's
again,
upsetting me. I'm
the
very
boy.
I'm not
and I
gonna
don't.
lie, I didn't notice that at all. What I did notice was that I knew he had a name in the 1990 movie, but I couldn't remember it, so I didn't think anything of it. And then when we watched the 2020 movie, I was all like, "Wait a minute, what's his name?"
In the 2020 movie, his name is actually Hero Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
saw
I had to
that.
go look up the credits and, like, just to make sure that, like,
Mhm.
was I missing something?
Mm.
The only
I was
reason
not.
why I noticed it was because like, whenever I was writing down my notes, I couldn't write, like, "He did this." I'm like, "The boy did this, and then the boy did this," and I'm like, "Oh my god,
Mhm.
this bothers me so bad. I hate when these books do this. Give
'Cause they
me
want
an."
it to feel like it could be any kid.
I know, I
It could
hate
be
it.
any kid.
It drives me
But
insane.
then so, like, also though, difference between the book and the movie, the 2020 movie at this point, is in the 2020 movie, the grandmother says, like, witches target poor kids,
Mhm.
castaway kids, outsiders, the kids that nobody's gonna notice missing.
Mhm.
Whereas in the book, she's like, "Oh, they don't care. They'll target anybody."
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they're just coming to get you. You're a kid, you're a target. So, I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah. Which I noticed that, but then I noticed that in the movie later, that's not necessarily, was that, like, reflected whenever they were trying to get the one kid? The other, what was his name? The kid that was eating all the
Oh,
chocolate?
Bruno.
Yes.
I think that was more of a
Like a test or something?
it was more of a test, it was more of a
Convenience.
target, yeah, convenience.
Yeah.
An opportunistic target.
Yeah.
Also, Bruno was just kinda sucked. Like, if I was a witch, I'd be like, "That one's gotta go."
Easy. Easy
Dang.
one.
Like
Yeah. So, like, honestly, when the grandma's telling this, oh, wait, before that, when the boy is talking about getting, sorry. When the boy's talking about getting in the car, or getting in the car accident and his parents dying in the car accident, the way in the movie it shows that grief
Yeah,
made me so emotional. I was crying
because
a
they
lot.
really don't in the movie or in the book, it's more like, and then
Kinda
my
glossed
parents
over.
died,
Yeah, it's glossed
and I
over.
moved in with grandma.
Yeah.
Like,
But it was I think it was reflected very well in the movie and really well done. And, like, the boy who plays the boy in the movie
hero boy.
yeah,
Hero
hero boy.
boy.
I think he did so well with that. I was really, like I was wanting to cry that whole time with
Hmm.
that. I was feeling the grief for that whole part. And then
I'll
in
admit though, the movie started and I hear Chris Rock talking, and I was like, "Man, this is about to be a crazy episode of Everybody Hates Chris."
It's kind of what it set it up as too.
yeah. I was like, "Is that Chris Rock?"
Hmm. I turned it on. I went, wait, I don't. This is not a part of the original movie. Like, I don't
Yeah,
remember a narrator. Like,
yeah. It's like trying to turn it into a comedy? Like, what's going on here?
yeah, it was because it's not. It was not. Even the 1990s movie was not a comedy. It was meant to be a
No.
scary movie for kids.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So it just kind of seemed out of place to have Chris Rock there. Like, don't get me wrong, it kind of ended up working,
Mhm.
but it definitely was like, wait, what? What are we doing? What? I
yeah,
don't understand. You know.
yeah, that was
There were also a couple of moments in Anne Hathaway's dialogue that I think were meant to be funny. Like there was a moment on the balcony with Stanley Tucci where she mispronounces garlic multiple times, and he's
Yeah.
like, "What?
yeah.
What? Huh?"
Did
Like,
I stutter?
Which is
and I
so
think it was
funny that they were in there together because they were
right.
also in Devil Wears
Devil
Prada
Wears
together.
Prada. I love Stanley Tucci.
I do too.
He's just amazing. But I just feel like that was very like a forced moment that was just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, they both pulled it off really well, but it
Mhm.
just didn't fit with the rest of the. We're supposed to be scared of this woman.
Yeah,
We've been scared of this woman. Honestly, she's creeping me out right now.
yeah,
Now I know she can't say garlic, which has like a part of me was like, why garlic? They're not vampires.
Right, and also, yeah, they have an allergy to garlic?
Like maybe
Not
they are
spoiling anymore.
vampires. Did Roald Dahl ever write a vampire book? Maybe they connect. I don't know. But
yeah, I was trying to see if because it kinda leaves off in a way that it could connect to other books, but I don't think that there are any books in, like, a series or anything for this.
mm-mm, not that I know of.
Yeah, because the way that it ends is, like, it could be something
Yeah, it
else.
could have gone off into
Yeah.
spun off into other stuff.
Mhm.
Anyways, where are we in the book? Sorry.
So,
Now that we've completely thrown you off your
Yeah.
your path, Lindsay, sorry.
we have the boy, the narrator, moves in with his Norwegian grandmother. That's the same in the book, in the movie.
Well, it's in the 1990s movie, it's Norwegian grandmother. But in the 2020 movie,
Mhm.
they're in
Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
In 1986, is it?
I think so. Yeah,
Oh,
it
no, I'm
was.
sorry, no, it's 1968.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait. I think it's a
Yeah,
60.
because we end up flashing forward later.
Yes, yes. Okay, so in the movie, the boy is grieving, and the grandmother helps him bring him out of this dark place. And she buys him a pet mouse, and he names it Daisy.
That's one of my notes.
Well, that's in the movie
But we'll get
because
to that
in the
later.
book,
In the book, 2 mice.
2
But
mice.
it's also later. He doesn't
Right.
name
Yeah,
the mice immediately. But yeah, we'll get to that too.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the grandmother tells the stories and
I
kind of
do.
teaches the boy how to tell what a real life witch is,
Yeah.
how to find them.
I
Yeah.
think my favorite part of the book that might actually be worth like a quarter of a star, just this one section, is the stories of the girls that she knows have disappeared.
Yes.
Like those were like great. Like that's the kind of creepy story I want to hear.
Yeah.
That's the kind of creepy story that like if you had a whole book of just those, the missing children that we know were taken by that turned into different animals or were found in a painting or were like I need that book.
Yeah.
Just That was
Or like a
amazing to
kid that
me.
was like turned to like stone or something.
Yeah.
So there
It
was
was
the little girl that was trapped in the painting. There was the chicken, right?
Yeah, which was I
mhm.
think that was the only one that was in the
That was
movie.
the only one that was in the movie,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the 1990 movie, they had the little girl that was trapped in the painting, and then
Right.
the 2020 movie was just
And like
the
not even
well,
just trapped in the painting, like growing old in the painting.
and then
Right.
just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, spent the rest of her life in this
Yeah.
painting.
So like these witches just come after children and
And
like
get them
curse
out of
them.
reality, yeah.
Yeah. Cursing them
One
to
of them,
do
what,
things.
turned into a porpoise or a
Yeah.
seal or something like
And
that, like
honestly, I had to look up what the heck a porpoise was. Sorry.
It's
Never
okay.
never heard what the heck a porpoise
You
was.
didn't grow up in Norway, that's understandable.
Yeah, that's fair.
Honestly, I was like, "Thank goodness for the, pictures in this book because what is a porpoise?"
I will say that the illustrations are pretty fun too. It's as far as I know, every version comes with the illustrations, so
The Kindle version did.
Yeah, it did.
yeah,
So that was nice.
I absolutely love that. I think they're adorable.
But the grandmother describes real life witches as horrific female demons who seek to kill human children. And of course, they look like ordinary women, but there are tales of witches having claws instead of fingernails, so they hide them in gloves. They're bald, so they wear wigs, and the wigs make their heads break out in rashes. They have squared feet. They have no toes, unless
That
you're Anne
freaks me
Hathaway.
out.
I hate that.
The whole no toes thing, like, at first I was like, "That's just dumb," but then the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, "Ew." Like, that's so gross. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of creature has no toes?
And so, because they have no toes, they still wear pointy shoes, and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I have fat feet, so I have to wear fat shoes. So small shoes make my feet hurt too. I get that.
So you identify with the witches? Great.
Yeah,
Making a note of this.
more than I expected.
Also, so whenever they show this in the movie later on and show it with Anne Hathaway,
And her raptor feet.
why does she have raptor feet?
I don't know.
I need
I
someone
don't
to break that down for me.
I
I
didn't like it.
I don't know. I
I thought they're
cannot figure
not
that
supposed
one
to
out.
have toes.
Well, like, and in the 1990s movie, they have purple eyes, and
They
that's
did
how
have.
you can tell.
Well, that's
They
what in the book they say that they're supposed to have like fire in their eyes or
their
something.
pupils can change color.
Yeah.
Right. And then in the 2020 movie, they say that their mouth is really big. It
Mhm.
goes almost all the way to their ears, and they cover
Mhm.
it with makeup.
Mhm.
So, like, that's not in the book either.
No.
So, I don't get me wrong, I'm glad they added that. That was really creepy, and it worked out really well. Having said that, like, they didn't really I don't know, there were a couple other things that I was just like, "What about the spit?" Like,
Yeah.
their spit is blue in the book.
I thought the mouth thing made it look like they all had horrible popsicle accidents.
I thought they, like, ran into the mob, to be quite honest, like
I was like, what in the Joker is going on here?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
The chick-
"Okay, we're in the Batman DC
Yeah.
universe, got this." Like,
I
no.
think the blue spit maybe was kind of brought in when Anne Hathaway like went up in the air and like blew fire out or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
Like you
I
could
feel like that
kind of
would've been a
say
weird
that.
one to do without it just looking absolutely disgusting, so I kinda get it.
Yeah.
And then there's the last one with their nostrils. They have large nostrils so
Yeah.
they can smell children. And the children smell of dogs' droppings.
Yeah. Which was cracking me up whenever the boy, he was like, "I'm not gonna be, like, taking it" he's like, "It's okay, I just won't take a bath. Like, I only take a bath, like, once a month." They're like,
And in the book, the grandma's like, "Yeah, that'd be smart. Like,
Good
just don't do it
job.
that often."
"Yeah,
And
And
then in
then
the movie,
she's like, "Don't test me, kid." I'm like,
yeah,
"Mm-mm."
don't." Don't. You ain't gonna be smelling around here.
And then in the whole book, they're yelling about poop. So
Yeah. And the
And
grandma
this is
in the book is like, isn't she like missing part of her thumb or something?
yes. And in the 90s movie, she is missing a finger as well because she had a run-in with a witch.
Yeah,
But
and
it's
she's
her
like a
pinky, isn't it?
witchophile
It's her
or
pinky.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's on
okay.
her. And then in the 20s, in the 2020 movie, Anne Hathaway seemed to have all of the appropriate parts. Except she only had 3 fingers on each hand.
Yeah.
Oh,
But wore the gloves.
the
Or
grandmother.
the grandma had all of her hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had all her fingers.
Yeah,
She didn't even really like. She talked about having a run-in with a witch when she was younger, but she didn't really seem to be like in the book. Grandma was like, what did she call it? A witchophile? A witch?
Yeah, she was a witchophile in the book.
And in the movie, not so much.
Yeah. She was friends, in the movie, she was friends with the girl who was turned into a chicken.
Yes.
Right.
And she got away from one of the witches. The High Witch, I think.
Yeah. Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
She escaped Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We kinda
Right.
jumped
Where
around a
are
little
we?
bit. Where are we?
Sorry.
Yeah.
We just keep dragging you all over the place. Sorry, Lindsay. Carrie and I cannot focus on anything ever. Sorry.
I know. It's so bad.
So in the movie, he got his mouse. In the book, he has just learned that in his parents' will, he is inheriting their family house, but that means they have to move from Norway back to England.
Yeah.
Which they don't want to do. They want to stay in Norway, grandma and the kid.
Yeah.
Right. And then the grandmother warns the boy to be on guard because English witches are known to be among the most vicious in the world. And they are notorious for turning children into creatures. And the grandmother reveals that there are witches in other countries and they have different customs, and that the witches don't communicate with one another, but they do meet once a year. And they have like this
Like an annual council kind of thing.
exactly
Yeah.
like a council. So shortly after they arrive back in England, the boy is building a tree house with one of his friends. And one day he's out there putting the roof on his little tree house, and a strange woman appears. And she's creepy.
Mm-hmm. She got a snake.
She got a snake.
Yep. And she's like, come here. Stranger danger.
And the little boy, he notices that she's wearing gloves and her shoes. She's got the pointy shoes.
All the signs.
It's all the signs. So he climbs up the tree and he just has to
He's
hang
like,
out until his grandmother comes back.
Yep. He's like, nope, I ain't doing this.
Grandma didn't raise no fool.
Mm-mm.
So this is different from the movie because in the movie, he encounters his first witch in the grocery store when
Right.
he's shopping with his grandmother. They go to buy, she's buying like produce and he's buying nails to build a house for Daisy.
Yeah. And at this point, the grandma in the movie is like cursed or something.
Yeah, she's starting to cough.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah.
Because the grandma in the book gets pneumonia. Like, and it's not a like a weird, creepy thing. She just happens to get pneumonia because she's old and old people get sick. And that's kind of how they explain it in the book.
And she smokes cigars all the time.
And she smokes cigars all the time, which I also have noted. The quote is, I don't care what age you are, she said, you'll never catch a cold if you smoke cigars. They would not get away with that in a children's book these days.
No.
Mm-mm.
In the 90s movie, the grandmother also gets sick, but she has diabetes, right?
She gets the diabetes.
Again, nobody's like, this is not a witchy thing. This is not a weird, this is just old people get sick. And then in the 2020 movie, she just starts randomly coughing and then ends up kind of blaming that on the witch. I bet the witches did it, right?
Well, wasn't the witch like outside of their house.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
One
witch
day and was
was
like, "Curse you," or something like that, and
yeah,
then left,
absolutely. So
and
I'm
then
not
she had
saying
a
it
cough.
wasn't a witchy thing. It was, but like it wasn't in the book or the movie. Also, or it was in the book and in the 1990s movie, the medical professionals who treat grandma say, "You need to take a vacation and go to the seaside where you can get healthy." Like they prescribe this woman a vacation.
And he
And
does.
she's like, "You're right. We should go to the seaside." Like, why did they stop doing that? Also, the book and the movie do not take the 1990s movie do not take place in the United States. The 2020 movie does. And
Mm.
then 2020 movie, I don't even think grandma ever sees the doctor. She just has a cough.
Yeah, no, she doesn't.
Mhm.
And so nobody prescribes her a vacation. And I feel like this is one more reason we should take the United States to a socialized medical system because we all need a vacation.
Well, she decides that because witches never leave once they
Right.
find a child, that they're gonna go hide in a fancy hotel. And,
Right.
you know,
The
I can see
witches
that
like
too.
run her out of town. She's like, "We'll go someplace I know that there won't be any witches."
Turns out every freaking witch you know
All of them.
at this hotel.
All of them.
So, at this point in the book, um, the boy receives William and Mary as, like, a consolation present
Like, "Sorry,
because
we're not going to Norway on vacation. We have to go to the beach like the doctor ordered."
Yeah.
we have to go
So
to
here's
the
2 mice.
English beach.
So here's 2 mice.
Yeah.
Here's 2 mice to keep you company.
And, of course, he takes the mice on vacation with him. Because, you know, why not?
Yeah.
Grandma's got to convalesce in the hotel.
Yeah. Bring your pet mice with
So
you.
mad about that. That's another reason I'm mad about this book.
So, while they're at this hotel, the boy is training his pet mice because he's gonna open a circus. A circus with mice.
I got nothing
Yep.
on that.
Yep.
I
I mean,
can't.
I guess it's safer than lions. I don't know. While he's training his mice, he does have an issue with the hotel staff, and the staff obviously don't like his mice. So, in the 2020 movie, Stanley Tucci is like, "You need to get rid of these mice." In the 1990 movie, Mr. Bean,
Mr. Bean.
Rowan Atkinson, is the hotel manager. That that was fun.
That definitely added I don't know. He's probably the most famous person in that whole movie.
Probably.
But it made me laugh.
And just to hear him talk, I was like, "No, don't."
Right? No, why do you don't have a voice? Shut up. Like
Uh, so yeah, he gets in trouble with the hotel staff, and they're like, "No more training your mice." And then the grandmother's like, "This hotel has rats. I've seen them. They're in your kitchen. Leave us alone."
Yep.
And
I'm gonna call the health department. And he's like, "What? No. How about you just promise to keep them in their cage?"
foreshadowing, the
Which the
hotel does
hero
have
absolutely does not do. Hero boy does not keep the mice in the
no.
cage.
So Hero Boy decides to find a more secluded area to train his mice, and he finds a ballroom.
Sorry, every time through the book, through the movie, and even right now, every time to train his mice, I just like, come on, kid. Like those mice ain't gonna do shit. Back off. Like they're just mice.
So he finds this ballroom, and it's being rented out by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. And he's like, "Sweet, I'm on board. Let's go."
I think it's hilarious though that even in the movie and in the book, he's like, if I get caught, at least I know they're nice ladies.
Yep.
Like
Something about they would applaud a smart young boy who's training his mice.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, bud.
So he is in the ballroom when he sees a bunch of ladies entering the room. And in the book, he hides behind a screen. Like, what are they called? It's
Like
like
one of
a.
those folding screens that you like change your clothes behind or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
In the movie, the 2020 movie, he hides under the stage.
Yeah. I've there's a part of me that's like it makes more sense because you don't see those screens in a lot of like conference rooms or anything, you know what I mean? But there's another part of me that's like, this is one of those really, really big fancy hotels. And I used to work at a resort in the 90s, and those screens were still a big thing to like hide the sound equipment or hide the unsightly stack of dishes before we, whatever. Like they were definitely there.
It just caused me so much anxiety.
That whole scene.
All of it.
Yeah. That was honestly, it was a very like Stephen King, like as the dread builds and the anxiety builds and you find yourself kind of trying to like shrink along with this boy hiding.
Yeah, especially since, like, all the witches have such high sense of smell.
You
Mhm.
know
I
you're
was
gonna
like,
get caught.
"Hello? Like, you don't smell this kid, like, hiding over here?"
Well,
He
in
didn't
the
take a
2020
bath.
movie, Anne Hathaway does smell him. Like, you can tell she's walking around and she's sniffing. She's like, dog droppings."
This is pretty suspicious.
I smell the poo.
But she continues anyway, and the boy, he's watching everyone, and he's noticing that they're scratching their scalps. And, obviously, if you're scratching under the wig's gonna move. So he's like, "Oh my god, they're wearing wigs."
Mhm.
So
And then he's, like, looking down and seeing, like, their shoes, and then he's looking at their gloves, and then he's,
Mhm.
like, putting it all together, and he's like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, so that's when he
I
knows he's in danger.
I have chosen the wrong
Yeah.
room. These are not friendly ladies.
And the Grand High Witch obviously gets on stage
Anne
to
Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
grand. And Anne Hathaway, like we said, she's terrifying, but she is very grand. And especially when she starts floating above everybody, that's when she really starts flipping you off with her feet.
That was just so I don't understand. I
The
don't understand
claw,
why she got one
the
singular little talon toe on each foot and nobody else gets to. Maybe that's what makes you the Grand
High
High
Witch.
Witch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how
Like,
you
ooh,
know.
you got toes. Ah, you're the next
Oh,
ruler of the group.
yeah. You got toes. You got 2 toes.
Like,
That
you're
makes
in.
you the ruler, then you're in. You're the leader. Also in the book, the High Witch takes off, like, a mask.
Yeah, she like rips
Basically
off her
takes her face.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Takes her face
So
off.
there is a section, a paragraph describing what he sees under that mask of a face. That alone is like, no, my child will not be reading this book before the age of 10.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that paragraph is so disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I can say. It was just really freaking disturbing. I'm not going to read it. It's
So all of the witches, they're allowed to take their wigs off, they take their gloves off, they take their shoes off, they're all comfy. Anne Hathaway starts yelling at them in the movie because the witches in the book in England, I guess in the movie, just witches in general, they haven't killed enough children. There's still too many children running around.
She's, like, so mad. She's like, "I just saw out on the beach, all these children having a grand old time,
they put
and
me off
you
my
all
breakfast.
you all aren't doing anything about it. So we need to
So
do something about this."
so she comes up with a master plan. And the master plan is that all of the witches are going to purchase sweet shops
I mean,
with
honestly, it's a real great plan. It
I just want
I would have been got.
I just
Yeah.
want a sweet shop.
Yeah.
Like I would have absolutely been got. This is the moment when I was like, "Damn, I wish I had a candy bar."
I
Like,
would I probably would have turned myself into a mouse because I would have forgotten and I would have eaten the chocolate.
Oh, absolutely. I would have been like, you seem suspicious, but you got candy, so we're good. Like,
So all the witches are going to purchase sweet shops with counterfeit money that the Grand High Witch has printed herself,
mhm.
and they're going to give away free sweets and chocolates laced with her latest creation, Formula 86 delayed action mouse maker.
Bum, bum, bum.
Dun, 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 dun.
What a name.
I know. Like, just call it the poison, folks.
Oh, the poison for Cusco. Cusco's poison.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my god.
Yzma was
Those two
probably a
minutes.
witch. What do you think? Do you think she was trying to kill all the children?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Possibly.
So the whole point in turning all of the children into mice is so that the children's teachers and parents will kill them, and the witches don't have to get their hands dirty or their feet dirty, whichever.
Their claws dirty.
Exactly. So obviously the boy is training his mice, and they're mice, so they get away. And William and Mary start running around on the platform in the book. And this part broke my heart. Nothing happened, but the Grand High Witch kicks the mice into
She
the
kicks
wall.
them.
Yep.
No, I had to stop reading for a second and be like, that bitch.
I don't know what I was expecting. They're
Like, I'm gonna
trying,
fight
She's a
her.
witch, and they're mice.
and
Like,
they're trying to kill all of the children as mice anyway. But
right.
when she kicked the mouse, I was like, "Oh my god, please don't hurt him." And then he runs off, and so does Mary.
And then that's like we don't ever see those two mice again.
Not in the book, no.
And in the movie, that's completely different story.
Yes, because in the movie, there's just the one mouse, and it's Daisy, and she doesn't run off because she's smart, I guess. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But to also demonstrate how the formula works, the Grand High Witch brings in a child named Bruno Jenkins.
Bruno Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
And he is rich and greedy little demon child. And she promises
much.
him free chocolate. So if he shows up to the conference room at a certain time, he's going to get like 6 bars of chocolate. So Bruno shows up right on time and starts demanding his free chocolate. And all the witches are counting down the time for when he's supposed to transform because of this alarm that's in the formula. And then in the book, he just kind of transforms, and all the witches are like, they're celebrating, and they're all excited, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna kill him!" And they get so excited they kind of forget about him, and he just kind of runs off.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2020 movie, he transforms into a mouse, and the witches try to step on him, and then surprise, Daisy the mouse can talk. Daisy jumps in and saves the day. She captures Bruno from the witches and drags him into like this vent that's behind the stage.
Yeah.
So in the book, this meeting is like 6 chapters. It's
Yeah.
a solid
It's
70
so
pages.
long.
Yeah.
I feel like it was half the book.
It really was. The book was what?
remember.
100 or 206 pages with
Yeah.
illustrations.
Yeah.
And 70 of those pages are this meeting.
Yeah.
It was a terrifying meeting. Like
Yeah.
it needed the 70 pages.
And in the audiobook, she's talking in that same accent
Ooh.
Oh.
that Anne Hathaway's was doing.
Mm-hmm. That's how it's
And-
written.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's how it's like written too. And it was so like over the top extra where I had to slow it down. I
Yeah.
usually listen to about like 2 times speed. I had to slow it down drastically because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. Like, what is she saying right now?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that would have been difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. So in the book, the meeting is concluding. You know, they got to see the potion in action or whatever,
Mhm.
and they're leaving, and you're like, oh, the boy's safe. And then one witch is like, I smell dog droppings.
Yep. And the boy's like, "Oh no."
He's
He's like,
like,
"When did I take
and
a
I'm
bath
caught.
last?"
So yeah, they find him, and he is forced to take an overdose of the Formula 86, and he instantly turns into a mouse.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, when Daisy saves Bruno and she goes back into the vent, this kind of gives the boy's position away, and Anne Hathaway finds him and drags him out, and also forces him to take the potion, but she drops it in
Shakespeare
his
style.
yeah,
She says Shakespeare style.
in
Poison
his
in the ear.
in his
Yeah.
ear. Ugh, I
Which,
can't stand water in my ear.
yeah,
Mm.
no, it freaks me out. And I don't feel like it added anything to the damn story. You know, like there are small changes that I feel like it wouldn't have been any different if they had just done like they did in the book or in the other movie, plug his nose to force him to open his mouth.
Mhm.
Like, why do we have to like add a little artistic difference by putting it in the ear? Like, this is supposed to be a kids movie. The kids don't know
Yeah.
about Shakespeare yet.
And it's also like it's not like it's less disturbing to do it this way.
Right.
Right.
So,
Whatevs.
So he gets an overdose. He's transformed into a mouse, and magically, one of the witches has a mallet, and Anne Hathaway, the Grand High Witch, is gonna squish him with a mallet. And then once again, here comes Hero Daisy. And she runs
Daisy's
in.
awesome.
I
yeah.
do like Daisy. Yes.
Daisy's Kristen Chenoweth, so like
Yeah.
obviously gonna be
I
good.
know. I was like, I recognize that voice, and then I went and looked up who played her, and I was like,
Dude, I looked it up on IMDb. They credit like a bajillion and a half people as witches with no name. It just says witch, witch,
Mhm.
witch, witch, witch. And Kristen Chenoweth is down at the very freaking bottom, even though she clearly had a gazillion and a half lines compared to the unnamed witches.
She's
Yeah.
basically a main character.
Yeah.
Pretty
Really.
much. So I
That's
was like, why is
crazy.
she at the bottom of this list, folks?
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen her? She's amazing. Have
I
you
know.
listened to her voice? Because I don't think you know who she is.
Yeah.
But
Really.
just saying.
So they get away. In the book, the boy just manages to run really fast away from all of the witches, and that's how he escapes. In the movie, after Daisy saves him, they're in the vent, and a fan turns on, so they're trapped in this vent, and the bottom ends up falling out, and then Anne Hathaway sticks her hands into some blades and freaks out.
Yeah, what's with the go-go gadget arms?
Oh, those were I don't
Yeah.
That was
body
not in
dysmorphia, like, that freaks me out.
it was definitely not
Creepy.
it was not in the book. It was not in the 1990s movie. I again, the way the Grand High Witch had some different powers, I guess, in this one were like to me all the wrong powers, like just creepy. Not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool.
So they all end up escaping, and they go to the grandmother's room because obviously she's going to be the most accepting of their condition.
Cuz she knows about witches.
She knows
Mhm.
about witches,
She
she knows what they
knows.
do. So they manage to make it back to her room. In the movie, this is where Daisy reveals that she was actually an orphan girl named Mary
And
before she was
that's
turned
my
into a
thing.
mouse. Oh,
Cuz she's all like cuz they're all like, "Yeah, and Daisy was a kid too." And she was like, "Actually, my name's Mary." And they're all like, "Oh." And then they continue to call her
and then they
Daisy
get
for the
yes,
whole rest of the movie.
yes. Yeah, I caught that.
What?
Yeah.
This is not I chose a different name and you haven't figured that out yet. This is straight up, I'm telling you what my name is. I have a real name that was given to me by my parents that I would prefer to use, even though I'm an orphan. And they're all like, oh yeah, no problem, Daisy. Like, like, even in the very, very end of the movie, she's like, stop. She doesn't even correct them. That's the one time she corrects them.
She's like, I
She
guess
just, like,
that's my
gives
name
up.
now.
So we never hear the name Mary again in the movie.
Mm-mm.
And they devise the plan to poison the witches. They're going to use the potion against the witches, and they're going to turn them into mice. See how they
Reverse
like it.
Uno.
Yep.
Like,
And they find out that the Grand High Witch's room is actually directly underneath them. So
super convenient.
super convenient. And
Yeah.
they changed the room number in the book and the movie. And in the
I
movie,
think they just wanted to use.
they just wanted to use 666.
Yeah, they really did.
That was very forced.
It was pretty forced. So the grandmother actually has a sock that she's knitting, and the boy gets into the sock, and she lowers him down onto the balcony of the Grand High Witch's room.
Mhm.
And he manages to steal a bottle of potion from the Grand High Witch.
Mhm.
And in the movie, their initial plan is to take the poison and try to create a cure because the grandmother's kind of witchy herself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. So then they go with the plan to put it in the witch's pea soup. And this is where the garlic scene happens.
Garlic.
Gulick.
I can't even say it the way she said it. I don't.
Gulick.
Garlic. No garlic. No garlic in the soup.
So
Like,
the soup
what?
is very bland. It doesn't taste good at all. Just so
It's hardly
everyone
edible.
knows.
And
Like
all
the-
the chefs, they're like, nobody eat the soup. Not because it's for like all that whole
But because
group,
it's just that gross
because
without
it's
the
just
garlic.
disgusting because there's no garlic in it.
Garlic. This is also where they attempt to return Bruno to his terrible, horrible parents.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awful people.
Mhm.
The mother is terrified of mice, so she's not having it. Then Bruno joins in on the plan to poison all the witches. And they go into the dining hall, and the boy sneaks into the kitchen and manages to pour this bottle of potion into the pea soup. And on the way back, in the book, on the way back from the kitchen, he gets a little cocky. He's swinging from pot handles with his tail. And he gets,
Woohoo, I'm a mouse.
yeah, look at me go. I'm
Look what I
swinging.
can do.
But at one point he was like, this must be what it feels like to be a trapeze artist in the circus. I'm like, kid, give up on the circus, please.
Yeah. He wants to be in the circus so bad.
Yeah, now he can.
Yeah.
No ringleader, though. But he gets caught, and one of the chefs chops off part of his tail with a carving knife. Because I guess he's like, I don't know, Hawkeye. Threw the carving knife across the room. and chopped his
Yeah.
tail off.
Right.
So he escapes, gets back to his grandmother, and the soup is served. And here is also a big difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, all of the witches eat the soup, no hesitation, no problem. In the movie, we notice that the Grand High Witch, Anne Hathaway, is eyeballing the grandmother from across the room. And that's when she realizes who the grandmother is,
Mhm.
and that she had technically met her before when she turned Alice, the grandmother's best friend, into a chicken.
Yeah.
Chickenify.
Recognize her. Because
Yep.
before, when she was, during the incident when she was like bringing up like the knitting or something, the High Witch actually in the movie
Was
catches
like, don't
her
I know you?
and like grabs the knitting as she's like pulling it up, and she's like, yeah, I recognize you, or don't I know you? And
Poor
then
grandma's like, nope, just drop my knitting. I'm an
Yeah.
old lady. Give
Yeah,
me my
I'm just
knitting
the old
back.
lady.
Like-
and then she gets it back because like I think that
Stanley
hotel-
Tucci shows up.
Yeah, he shows up,
Mhm.
and so he
God bless
like
Stanley
gets
Tucci.
distracted, and then she recognizes her that second time as she's about to eat the pea soup.
Mm-hmm. So while she's making chicken noises at the grandmother.
Yep.
The mice are stealing her room key from her bag. And then the witches start turning into mice.
Starts catapulting.
I'm sorry, they're not even mice. They're rats. They
Yeah.
start
They're
turning
rats.
into rats.
They're like catapulting out of their chairs, flying in the air,
Mhm.
which I started cracking up at. I was like, this is hilarious.
And they even played a few bars of the the William Tell overture that like dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun, and like a witch
Yeah.
explodes.
Perfect.
It was so good. It
It
was
was
perfect. And it's
And
just screaming chaos everywhere because it's ugly freaking rats.
that was so
half-bone,
gross.
like
They were so gross, like
screaming.
hairless rats too,
Mangled
like
rats.
Yeah.
with mange.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now the dining room is full of rats, and Stanley Tucci got a rat. So you get a
He
rat.
really
You get a
did.
rat. Everyone gets a rat.
Everybody gets a rat.
And then they all start killing the rats because that was the plan.
Because
Yeah.
ew.
Yeah, nobody wants rats.
And in the book, this is actually where the Grand High Witch meets her end, and she is killed in the dining room. In the movie, the grandmother and the mice flee the dining room to the Grand High Witch's room, and the grandmother starts to collect the other bottles of potion that's in there. And
Because she just doesn't want him to get out in the world.
right.
Yeah.
You know.
And as she's gathering up these bottles, the Grand High Witch shows up because hotels keep spare keys behind the desk.
Yeah.
And she didn't eat the damn soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, behind you.
Right?
Turn around. Behind you. She's
We
behind
were all
you.
just kind of like, hello. And then the three mice were under the bed, just kind of like,
The bed that's in the
Oh,
middle of the
shit.
room also.
right?
Yeah.
With
That was-
a mirror, not a mirror, like a window that you could see through. Because you
Yeah.
could see her face.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
Yeah, Grand High Witch shows up. She's upset.
A little bit.
She's pissed. She's here for blood. Let's be
And
honest.
she starts doing her little arm thing.
It's so creepy. It's like
Bending your arms.
Stretch Armstrong over here, just like whoosh with those
Yeah.
arms.
I do not like it.
As she's taking her time trying to get her arms to the grandmother, the mice have a chance to take the traps that are under the bed and put them on Anne Hathaway's toes.
As someone who has repeatedly broken her toes, I
don't like things
scream,
touching my toes.
like mm-mm.
My toes are
Mm-mm.
sensitive. I don't like anything touching my toes. So, like a mouse trap on my toe, no, thank you.
And that scream she scrummed, whoa, like whole mouth.
The
wide
scream I
open.
just scrummed.
She scrummed a scream. She screamed a scrum.
My sister used to hold me down and pop my toes, so I feel it.
Oh man, that was
Traumatized.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
I think
no,
we
thank
all
you.
in that moment kind of just went like
Felt-
that collectively.
It was
like,
so bad that her extended arms shriveled up back
Snapped
into her body.
like,
That's how much pain she was in.
And as she's screaming, the boy launches himself from a mousetrap, drops the whole bottle in her mouth.
Yeah.
So let me
her mouth is
science
open.
this and tell you that that's not possible. But
This
neither are the extendo arms of
Yeah.
witches. So
This is like a Wrinkle in Time moment when they climb in the tree stump.
yeah,
Like,
totally. Totally.
Like
This
I don't
is
think that's
CGI
how
mice.
math works.
Yeah.
Like,
So now she has an overdose and she turns into a rat. And
Ugly.
yeah. Before
but let me tell you, Grandma's like response to like, oh, the Grand High Witch is a rat now, is spot on.
Yeah, getting the jar. She's like
That like ice bucket. She's
Yeah.
just like boop, like.
so she puts the
You're
ice
done.
bucket over the Grand High Witch before they leave, and they release Hades, her cat, the Grand High Witch's
Which
cat.
also not in the book, but perfect.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah. I was honestly waiting for Hades to be like a person.
Me too. See, and in the book, remember they had the little frogs under the bed
Mhm.
at one point too. So like
Yeah.
there were other kids that had been turned into other things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, they didn't have that in the movie, so I thought that Hades probably was a kid, you
Right.
know, but I guess not.
That's what I was
Or
thinking.
maybe they were and they just never spoke. There's no telling, because that
Right.
cat did not like that witch.
No,
Mm-mm.
I wouldn't either if I was thrown in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
But before they leave, obviously they have to take the Grand High Witch's huge trunk full of counterfeit money.
Duh.
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 You don't
And
leave
all
money.
the
I will say,
locations
in
of
the
every
mo-
witch.
Yep.
Right.
And the book with all of the witches in the world, their names and addresses. And this is
Yeah,
why
I have
you
this
shouldn't
book.
keep an address book anymore.
Yep.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Don't do
And
that.
Don't write it down if you don't want people to find it.
right. And then obviously we still have the situation with Bruno because they still have Bruno. And in the book, they return Bruno to his parents. And they have a pet cat, and they're like, "You're gonna have to get rid of that cat. Here's your son. He's a mouse."
And that
And
was it. There was no conversation about what are you going to do or how
Yeah.
was Bruno going to live or whatever.
I think they hint that they may have drowned him in a bucket.
Well, yeah, at the end they're like, I wonder like what they did with Bruno, and she's like, maybe they just drown him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yet again, this book is not really appropriate.
Yeah.
Or no, it's just not.
And then in the movie, his parents just can't accept his current condition. So he moves in with the grandmother and the boy and Mary. Mary. Not Daisy. Who was
Not
that?
Daisy.
I'm not going to use that name. She said her name is Mary, and I'm going to believe her. Just saying.
So they go home and they devise another plan. They're going to use the book to find all of the witches in the world. And they're going to poison them all, turn them all to rats.
And then set the cats on them.
And
Yeah.
then sick cats on them, yes. In the book, it turns out that the Grand High Witch lived in a castle in Norway. And they were
Not
just
far away from Grandma's house.
Yep.
right. They're just going to sneak into the castle and then turn all of the witches in the castle.
And sick the cats on them.
And then release cats on them, yes.
Release the cats.
And they're going to fund their plan by using the Grand High Witch's money-making machine.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah, in the book, the grandmother pretends to be the Norwegian chief of police.
Chief of police for all of Norway.
Yeah.
And that's how she finds out the Grand High Witch's address.
And she just asks for it. She calls up and asks for it.
Yeah.
But I've been saying this for years, folks. If you ask, you'd be surprised how many things people will give you or tell you. All you gotta do is ask.
People love it.
Worst case scenario, they're like, no.
People love to overshare, so.
They really do.
Yep.
So that didn't shock me at all.
So then at the end of the movie, we realize that this whole story is being told from it's the boy who's telling the story, but it's his older self.
Yeah. Chris Rock.
And it is Chris Rock. He is Mouse
He
Chris
had
Rock.
been reminiscing. That's,
Yes. And he is training children on how to eradicate witches. So he's leading the charge and teaching these children how to go out and kill witches on their own.
Yeah.
Get her done.
Which I was so shocked that in the end, he stays a mouse the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I actually heard that is a very controversial ending. That he stays a mouse.
No HEA.
Yeah, I heard that in the 1990 film, they actually turned him back to a boy.
Mm-hmm.
And the author hated that and almost removed his name from the film or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had no
Because
idea
of
it was a
that.
book after watching the 1990 movie.
Yeah,
So
he hated that
I feel
they
like
did
it was
that.
not. Mm-hmm.
And then also with him being a mouse, this shortens his lifespan, and he's just gonna die in 9 years. And he's okay with it. The grandmother's okay with it. There's no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, as long as I get to live, as long as you do, I don't care.
Pretty much.
I'm like, he's a child.
He's a child, and he stays a child mouse forever.
Yeah.
Except in 2020 movie when he's an adult mouse, but
He's got like gray hair, gray mouse hair.
that's how you know he's an adult.
Yeah,
Right?
Gray
And
fur.
it's Chris Rock.
And it's Chris Rock. So let's get to our question of the episode. If you could become any animal, what would you choose?
Keri.
I didn't really think about this one. I was like thinking of like all these like different like wild animals, and I was like, let's be honest. You hate the outdoors. You sure as hell aren't going to go hunting for any food. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't even like I said, you don't even want to be outside.
Sound points.
So I'm thinking I'm probably going to be like a house cat.
I
like,
get it.
Sleeping on a couch.
I get it. I do.
Need to be fed twice a day by my human owner.
So I went the same direction, but slightly different because I don't mind the outdoors.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to have to hunt for food. And I also don't want to have to like go places to get whatever it is that I need. I want all that brought to me. But I don't want to deal with people if I can avoid it. So I want to be, and you guys are going to be shocked, a giant panda.
Oh.
Because here's the deal. I got beef with giant pandas. You both know that. I got some serious beef with giant pandas. However, they are like incredibly well taken care of.
Mhm.
And because they're so well protected, they have to have limited interaction with humans.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
like basically they just drop off the things that you need and then skedaddle. And that's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, giant panda for me.
I feel like I also give like black cat energy.
Mm,
I get told that a lot.
Little bit.
yeah,
Might have noticed.
definitely see it.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. I'm surprised. No, not
Oh,
you.
Keri, a black cat?
Shock.
No.
Big news here. Surprise.
I felt like the obvious choice for me would have been cat, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think my second choice was a squirrel.
Yeah, I love squirrels.
I love squirrels. And
They're so
I give off squirrel energy anyway because I'm always forgetting where I'm putting things. I like to stuff my face when I eat. You know, I scream a lot. So I went with squirrel.
I have a confession.
Oh.
So when I read, I like to have like a good like background noise or something on. Sometimes, have you ever had on those like live videos? You probably have
like
it.
nature
No.
videos.
The nature videos where it's like
Says-
they put a bird feeder out or like some type of
She hates the outdoors, but she loves nature
yeah.
videos.
I don't want to be outside, but I'll watch the outdoors. And just like the squirrels coming up and like eating food. I don't want to be outside. I just hate bugs. But I'll like watch the outside from a video. That's my
fair.
reading
That's fair.
background. So I love squirrels too.
When I read, I like to burrow in a blanket. So
Oh, there you go.
Another squirrel thing.
another
yeah,
squirrel
that's
trait.
definitely a squirrel trait.
Just a squirrel.
There you go.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. Don't forget to follow, rate, and review. Download our podcast and check out our social media for our reading schedules and bonus material. Would you ladies like to add anything?
Yeah, follow us on TikTok and Insta and Facebook, and because we do talk a lot over there. So if you have anything to say, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we have lots of little sneak peeks of our episodes coming up. That's where you can find our reading schedule and everything. Hopefully we have like more stuff coming. I'm actually working on a form right now where you can submit requests for episodes or recommendations that you want us to cover. So that should be up soon and provided on all of our social media links.
Yay.
Exciting stuff. So hopefully we will catch you in the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.